So like we said, today is Universal Design for Learning, our virtual session. And we're joined today this is our special education SIBO team, and we are, this is a collaboration between us and our teaching and learning division, specifically tech expert Jackie Patanio is on the line with us. Jackie, if you want to say hi.
I have my camera off because my hair is just really wild and out of control. But hi, everyone. Good to see you.
We're going to get into UDL, but remember that UDL is not, really a special education, topic. It's for all students, and that's why this is a collaboration. So we wanted to make sure that we had our partners from teaching and learning with us. Contessa?
So we asked, I'm not sure if everyone pre-registered for this or if you joined today without registering. Either way, my point is that you received these pre-reads in an email from Brandon. But if you didn't receive them, sorry about that, but they're here for you to reference afterwards. But we wanted to make some quick references to the Big Ideas on Special Education article. We're promoting the use of protocols because we know that that's one of the hallmarks of advanced literacies. If we want to accelerate student learning and student reading and comprehension, then we use protocols to do that. And if we want to create access and level the playing field for kids, then we want to use school-wide protocols because that decreases barriers. So the Big Ideas on Special Education is one of the articles, and then the curb cut effect. So Bren, just move to the second slide for me, please. So the Big Ideas in Special Education, this is a illustration of some of the key terminology discussed within that article. So as Brandon said, UDL, Universal Design for Learning, that's for all students. That's not something that was thought about for kids with special needs. That's for all teachers. When we sit down and we design our instructional learning plans for kids, our curriculum, our unit maps, our lesson plans, our assessments, we have all kids in mind, and we use the guiding principles of UDL to do that. Differentiated instruction is a term that's been used since the dawn of time when I started teaching in Dinosaur Land, and it's really about then thinking about groups of kids or individual needs as we get to specially designed instruction. So we're going to tie in the IEP to the instructional learning plan that we have, and what are those IEP goals that kids are supposed to be making progress towards. And then explicit instruction and scaffolding is the how of how we do that. So this picture illustrates a snapshot of the article, actually, and then ties into the curb cut and mindset. So if you want to go to the next one. So this was, if you're not familiar with this, it's a comic. So as you can see here, maybe that's a custodial engineer who is shoveling the steps, and then a student points out, and the student is in a wheelchair, and the student points out, if you shovel that ramp, everybody can head into the school. This really illustrates the curb cut effect. So I don't know if we're going to go into Cami now, or I think we'll just save it for later with Jackie. But so somebody wanted, but so if I could say, if you did have a chance to read the article, can you, that was one of the protocols we asked that you engage in. Can you chat into the box or let us know that you want to share by unmuting your microphone? Just that somebody wanted, but so of your curb cut effect. So for me, that curb cut effect, if I go to the article itself, it's on page 30. For me, what I lifted out, which was a key takeaway, was that to cut into the curb, we create a path forward for everyone. And that was after a couple of paragraphs about how that illustration that we just talked about shows us the benefits of how thinking for some, for few, for one creates access for everybody. rather than excluding one or excluding some or excluding excluding a few. So does anybody have a contribution they'd like to make from what they read?
I could jump in, Contessa.
Hey.
Same thing. It stuck out to me that when you cut the curb, people with strollers and dragging heavy packages or whatever also were able to use the curb cut. And then that study that they found, I don't remember where it was in the article, but that people were actually drawn to use the curb cut, regardless of their ability or not. So when I mapped it out and somebody wanted, but so then Michael and his friends wanted to have equal mobility as able-bodied, but the Barriers Act only required government buildings to be universally accessible. So then when he and his friends went and kind of created their own curb, that kind of prompted, I think they called it the movement for movement, right? So that stuck out to me. That was pretty cool.
Thank you, Liz.
I like to jump in when it comes to this. Marilyn Brown. My problem with this picture and some other ones, they're a bit antiquated. And while this is great, the curb cut accessing for everyone, my problem is there is not always someone to make the curb cut in certain neighborhoods. And that's a fact of matter, whether it's because of money, because nobody wants to do it, but having someone to actually do the curb cut is a concern. And I'm seeing it more than ever with remote learning, the disparity.
Yeah, the article even makes reference to that as well. And you've seen, especially those inequities come up with remote learning, like you said, because of access to technology or access to Wi-Fi. Even just if you had a device, you still need Wi-Fi. And then maybe you're not the only person in your household using that device. And then what we've seen is sort of that imbalance between asynchronous and synchronous learning experiences. So if we're assigning to kids but not giving them that face time, it's a little harder for kids because then they're essentially getting the work and trying to figure it out on their own. And then for some kids, if they do have family who can support them or siblings who can support them, but what about the kids who don't? And even in some of our high schools now, so I was talking to one of our schools on the North Shore, and they were planning their graduation celebration for kids. And, a lot of people have lawn signs, but you can't have lawn signs if you live in a high rise. So they've decided like they're giving out signs for windows. So they're thinking flexibly and creatively. They're delivering them, but we have to think differently for everybody. Thank you for sharing out, Marilyn. Anyone else want to jump in and say something? Okay. Thanks, everybody. If you didn't get a chance to read both articles, go ahead and head into them. You have access to them through the previous slide. Bran?
Yeah. All right. So what we're going to do is we're going to watch a quick clip. This is from the CAST website, which is the kind of the front runners and the pioneers of UDL. They have a ton of great resources on there, and we put their website in the resources link at the end of this presentation. But we're going to watch this together. It's a little over 4 minutes. It really breaks down what UDL is. Remember, this session is designed to kind of talk about what UDL could look like remotely. We could spend the whole day on the basics of UDL and breaking down each principle, and we're going to spend a little bit of time on that. But what we really wanted to do is give you a tool that you can use to help create access for all. And so we want to just kind of spend maybe the next 10-15 minutes on 15 minutes maybe on this video and some of the principles. So
This teacher needs to meet a curriculum goal, and she's got a very diverse group of students. And so does this teacher. And this one. Most do. In fact, research shows that the way people learn is as unique as their fingerprints. What does this mean for teachers of today? Classrooms are highly diverse, and curriculum needs to be designed from the start to meet this diversity. Universal design for learning is an approach to curriculum that minimizes barriers and maximizes learning for all students. Whoa, that's a fancy term. Universal design for learning. Let's unpack it a bit. Let's think about the word universal. By universal, we mean curriculum that can be used and understood by everyone. Each learner in the classroom brings her own background, strengths, needs, and interests. Curriculum should provide genuine learning opportunities for each and every student. Now let's think about the word learning. Learning is not one thing. Neuroscience tells us that our brains have three broad networks. One for recognition, the what of learning, one for skills and strategies, the how of learning, and one for caring and prioritizing, the why of learning. Students need to gain knowledge, skills, and enthusiasm for learning, and a curriculum needs to help them do all three. But every learner is unique, and one size does not fit all. So how do we make a curriculum that challenges and engages diverse learners? This is where the word design comes in. A universally designed building is planned to be flexible and to accommodate all kinds of users, with and without disabilities. It turns out that if you design for those in the margins, your building works better for everyone. Curb cuts and ramps are used by people in wheelchairs, people with strollers, and people on bikes. Captioning on TV serves people who are deaf, people learning English, people in gyms, and spouses who get to sleep at different times. UDL takes this idea and applies it to the design of flexible curriculum. UDL goes beyond access because we need to build in support and challenge. So how do we use the UDL framework to make learning goals, methods, materials, and assessments that work for everyone? First, ask yourself, what is my goal? What do I want my students to know, do, and care about? Then ask, what barriers in the classroom might interfere with my diverse students reaching these goals? To eliminate the barriers, use the 3 UDL principles to create flexible paths to learning so that each student can progress. Number 1, provide multiple means of representation. Present content and information in multiple media and provide varied supports. Use graphics and animation, highlight the critical features, activate background knowledge, and support vocabulary so that students can acquire the knowledge being taught. Number 2, provide multiple means of action and expression. Give students plenty of options for expressing what they know and provide models, feedback, and supports for their different levels of proficiency. Number 3, provide multiple means of engagement. What fires up one student won't fire up another. Give students choices to fuel their interests and autonomy. Help them risk mistakes and learn from them. If they love learning, they will persist through challenges. And remember, always keep in mind the learning goal. Get rid of barriers caused by the curriculum and keep the challenge where it belongs. And that's it. Okay, quick recap. Show the information in different ways. Allow your students to approach learning tasks and demonstrate what they know in different ways, and offer options that engage students and keep their interest. Universal design for learning equals learning opportunities for all. For more information on UDL, go to www.cast.org.
All right. So you got a little background there if you're on the beginner end with this, or if you just haven't had as much exposure to what UDL really is. So now we're just going to kind of go into each of the principles of UDL with some concrete examples. All right. Like we said earlier, UDL it's a framework. It's based on science, right? It's based on the different parts of the brain And when you are working with science, you can't go wrong, right? So, anytime you're creating something, it's based on, one of these three principles, and which we know is grounded in research, right? We're talking about learner variability, right? Every learner is different, learns in a different way, and so rather than, create individualized, for one, for two, for three, we're thinking about for all, because we know that what we're doing can, for one person, can be beneficial to all. So that's kind of how we want you to really think. All right, and the real goal of UDL is to address those barriers, right? Curriculum that we use, even curriculum that schools are creating, is not accessible for everybody. And so we have to think about how we can, what are the barriers and how can we reduce them, all right? Big difference back when we were looking at that tree that Contessa introduced you earlier, based on that first article, is between UDL and differentiation. A lot of times these terms get kind of used interchangeably along with the other term, specially designed instruction. All right, and these are just some differences between the two. UDL is proactive, where differentiated instruction is reactive. It's based on what we've taught and what the results of assessments are, right, and how we're going to adjust the way we teach. UDL is something that is planned for at the forefront before we're giving any assessments. And we'll introduce you to a checklist to help you when planning lessons, so that you can try and make sure that you have hit on some of the components during your planning. All right. UDL is based on how students learn, where differentiation is on how teachers teach. Just like I said earlier, you would change the way you teach for differentiation based on assessments. UDL, we're thinking about those networks of the brain. Again, we have UDL is necessary from onset of planning, so pre-planning, not post your lesson, as differentiation would be. UDL happens regardless of who is in your class, so no matter what, we know that the brain reacts in this way, and so that's how we're going to plan our lessons. Differentiation, we're going to change the way we teach based on the way certain students performed, right? We're going to give them another strategy, possibly. I'm going to have my co-teacher deliver to these in a small group because maybe they'll respond better, things like that. So these are just some of the kind of differences between the two terms. All right, like it said in the video, these are the kind of the three principles and the parts of the brain that they affect. So, remember that these are kind of the questions at the top of the slide that you see. These are the kind of the questions that students kind of need to answer and that teachers need to really, think about, right? Why am I learning this today? What am I learning today? And how will I express what I know or show what I know? It's one of my favorite terms. How do I, show what I know? Teachers have to think of, why am I teaching this, right? Because that's that engagement piece. Students have to understand that, there's a reason for what they're learning, and, in order to get them hooked. What am I teaching today? What's that content look like? And how will I know that my students mastered the objective? So we have these three, and in the video you saw, we have multiple means of engagement, which color-coded in green, multiple means of representation in purple, and multiple means of action and expression. Okay, those are those three pieces. So let's go into each one a little bit more depth. So engagement, right? This is the why of learning, right? Actually, what you'll notice about each of the principles too, I don't know if you could see this in the corner here. There are 3 guidelines that go for each of the principles. So with engagement, we have providing options for recruiting interest. An example of that would be, to give students choice, right? The other one we have is providing options for sustaining efforts and persistence. So what that is that goes around the goal setting and having kids, in Staten Island in our district, we're big on learning intentions and success criteria. So when you give kids an opportunity to co-create that success criteria with you, that can increase the level of engagement. And the third part of engagement is providing options for self-regulation. So that's when you allow kids to self-assess, via checklists. All right, so that's engagement in a nutshell. The second principle we have is representation. So representation is coded in purple, and the three different guidelines here are, the first one is to provide options for perception. So this is when you're thinking about how you're displaying information. Are you giving kids opportunity to see information visually, to hear it auditorily, to read it? So different ways of displaying information to kids. When you think about like the fonts you use and boldness and things of that nature. The second guideline in this principle is providing options for language, mathematical expressions, and symbols. So this is when we think about pre-teaching vocabulary to kids or clarifying vocabulary. When it comes to math, we have so many symbols, right? So defining what those symbols mean. Those are just some examples there. And the third is providing options for comprehension. So one thing that we know that teachers, paraprofessionals do is try and activate prior knowledge, right? What do I already know about this to help me with my comprehension, right? So these are just some examples, again, some concrete examples of some things that you're probably already doing, just to put them in a principle, right? So we looked at engagement, we looked at representation, and the third one, the final one, is action and expression. All right, so this is the how of learning. So this is where we're giving kids options for physical action. So providing options for physical action. This is where you want to give kids variety in the way they respond. Kids are not always strong in the same areas, such as, writing or such as giving presentations. And so we want to give kids an opportunity to respond in different ways, because that might still show what they know, but it might just look a little bit different. Providing options for expression and communication. Again, this is where they can use different types of media to show what they know. We have some very tech-savvy children out there to create these presentations rather than just kind of stand up or present orally. And the third one is providing options for executive functions. So all students, right, and especially students with disabilities here, do have some difficulties with executive functioning, and where we're helping kids by providing some scaffolds, checklists for kids, guiding goal setting, etc. All right, so those are the three. Again, there's a lot you can do with each of these. Again, we're not spending a tremendous amount of time, but we wanted to kind of level the playing field of everybody in here by giving you just some background. All right, this checklist, I'll click on it, this is the checklist I was referring to earlier. It's nice because it gives you each of the principles. So we have representation, the three guidelines within each one, and then there's another box here that says what it looks like in my lesson. So this is kind of a self-assessment for teachers, for paraprofessionals, especially paraprofessionals during this age of remote learning, where you may be running small groups, and it kind of gives you like a checklist. Did I vary the ways in which I'm displaying information? Did I pre-teach vocabulary words, right? So it just kind of gives you that opportunity to utilize this checklist and kind of document that. And so you have that for the three different principles here. So what we wanted to do, before we do that, this comes from an article that we found, and we linked the article towards the end. But now that we're in remote learning, it's like, how can we think about UDL best practices for remote learning, right? So within the article, these are 6 best practices. So explicitly teaching expectations and engagement, that would happen really more towards the beginning. What are the expectations of you during remote learning? Teaching all kids how to access the different platforms that you're using, how to hand in assignments, you know, those type of things, right? Your schedules, allowing for asynchronous learning. Again, we spoke about this earlier, but you know, synchronous learning is not for every student. We have students who just possibly physically cannot be online that much because they do not have enough devices at home. So you have to be flexible in the way that you are, you know, you can't mandate students to really attend all of your synchronous sessions, right? And if you do want your children to attend a synchronous session, maybe it's to do a running record. If you're an elementary school teacher, make sure you give kids you know, a lot of notice, so that they have time to make sure they have a device, or if they're sharing them at home, that they, you know, can tell their siblings, you know, I need the device during this time, etc. Right. Assigning note takers during UDL, so to help keep kids accountable. Make all your materials accessible. You know, in the beginning of remote learning, we had some teachers that were still sending home paper copies in the beginning, and that was a good idea because some kids, it took time to really get those devices, especially the ones that the DOE was ordering, right? Was still getting those. All right. Embracing your students as teachers. Yeah, you need to hear from the kids. The same way we like to hear from you, feedback, right, about our sessions. Get some feedback from your kids about how it's going for them remote learning, and then adjust. You know, this is new. This is new for everyone. And then actively building a supportive community. This goes without saying. You know, you want to make sure that parents are involved, and any type of CBOs and partnerships outside of the school building are involved in what you're doing, you know, during this time. So what we want you to do now, hopefully everybody has access to this slide. Maybe one of my colleagues can post this link to the Jamboard in the chat, just in case you're not in the slide deck. But we're going to try something out with you called Jamboard that we learned. Well, I learned from Jackie, but early on. Jamboard it is a fun kind of interactive way to have kids you know, post their responses. It's a little messy, but it's fun in that way. So we created this one for you. What we want you to do is think about any UDL best practices that you might have employed. It could be now during remote learning, or it could have been back when we were in the buildings. Think about which principle it aligns to. Remember, there are 3. And then what we want you to do is, once you think about that, you click on the Post-it here on the left side, sticky note they call it. We want you to choose the correct color. So if you have a best practice for engagement, that would be green. You would select green up here, and you would type your response into the Post-it and click Save. All right, and then what will happen, it'll post up on the screen for everybody to kind of share and see each other's ideas. So take a minute. If you don't have access to the Jamboard and you want to just post it in the chat box of our session, you could do that as well. But we just want to get an idea from you guys, have some of those best practices so we can share with each other. And the nice thing about Jamboard is after you finish, I can take a screenshot of this and to, you know, turn it into a picture or PDF, and I can kind of have it and post it so that we can share best practices with each other. So let's just take a minute for everybody to get to get familiar with Jamboard if you're not yet familiar with Jamboard, and choose your sticky note on the left side. Anybody, are there any questions in the chat box for anybody moderating? Are we okay there?
We're just fielding some access issues.
Okay.
If I click on it, I can get right in, so.
Okay. I have one here. Somebody posted something. Okay, in order to engage students, checking with them to see the best time to virtually engage with them. Yeah, this goes to what we were just saying with our you know, getting your student voice in there, right? That's a great one. Thank you. I'm gonna kind of try to keep them in order. We have here.
If anyone's getting an error message, it's Jackie. Just keep trying because it says that there's a lot of people trying to get on the board, on the Jamboard. So just, be patient and keep reloading it.
Thanks, Jack. Teachers are pre-recording lessons, so students can watch videos prior to small group or rewatch videos as needed. Yeah, I love that idea as well. Somebody might have used my big organizer. That's okay. Yeah, so that's a great way to represent information in different ways. Collaborate with colleagues to meet with students and get their input so they can tell us what they are in need of. Co-constructing success criteria, we color code learning intentions and standards, help students see what steps they need to take in order to master the standard. I love that, kind of breaking it down, making it student friendly. There's a lot of engagement post-its. So far we have a yellow one here. If anybody who did the yellow one can go in and edit and just change it to one of the 3 colors. Green for engagement. What do we lose here? Pink was for representation, right? And blue was for, which one was blue?
Action and expression.
Action and expression. Yeah, we lost some of those post-its here. That's okay. Thank you guys for your responses. This will be good. We could spread them out. We could share them. All right. But I do want to move forward because of time constraints. We're going to keep this open. So continue to add in here. Maybe if we have a few minutes at the end, we could go back to this and share. The Bitmoji classrooms. Yeah, I've seen these. These are really cool. Really cool. I see Flipgrid use. Awesome app. That's good. That's you guys are getting into kind of the segue now into what we're going to be sharing. So just quickly, I mean, these are just some apps and resources that we have been kind of utilizing. Today, Jackie is going to be doing a deep dive into Kami, which you guys are going to love if you haven't utilized it. It's great for teachers, paras, to work with kids. So I'm going to turn it over to Jackie, and then hopefully we can revisit later some of those responses. Let me just unshare my screen, Jack. Okay.
All right.
Go ahead.
Hey, everyone. So you on your slide presentation, there's actually a slide with my videos on it. We're not watching those today because I do not want to hear myself speaking. I was actually not going to be here today because I have to go get an MRI on my knee, which they moved to later. And I was thinking about the curb cut effect and thinking I really need to not be using stairs, and I really need a curb cut to get myself around the house at this point. As I crawl up the stairs, I'm like on my hands and knees. Actually, one knee. So in any event, so Kami is what we're going to be looking at today, and it's going to be the focus for the week in the sessions that I do. Kami can be used for just about anything, and we're going to start looking at it today from kind of like the basic level in terms of how you can turn PDFs into interactive spaces, how it integrates with Google Classroom, and then also how, if we get there, how we can create blank documents. But so give me a moment. I will share my screen. Again, I'm sure you know this, that like a lot of times when you're doing screen sharing, things run a little bit slower than they should. So when you're viewing my screen, Kami might start running a little bit slower. Again, it'll be perfectly fine once you're doing it yourself on your own device. So Kami, to access it, we'll start here. What you do is you go to kamiapp.com. Okay, go to kamiapp.com. Just model it again, right? And what you're going to, hold on one second. Very good, Jordan. Excellent. Go inside. Like, again, as always, I have a 6-year-old in the house. I apologize. I'm sure you all understand. I told him to be quiet for the next 20 minutes, but who knows what'll happen. Jordan, you have to be quiet, please. Okay, be quiet. So we're here, and all of your schools have access to this. So they've opened it up pretty much for the whole entire city, I believe. And then a lot of the schools in our district gave me their specific domains, and I was able to push it out to Cami for them to turn it on for you in your Google domain. If it's not on for your domain, you will let me know, and I will tell Cami, and they will turn it on for you. So the idea is that once you're here, you're going to create an account, and you're going to connect it to your Google domain for your school. So my domain is strongschools.nyc. That's what I've logged in with. So we're going to go to sign in. Okay. And I'm already signed in before, so it doesn't ask me to connect to Google, but hold on one second, everyone. Okay. So like I said, it doesn't ask me to sign in, but for you, you'll get that whole message asking, Cami wants to access your drive, and you'll kind of give it access to that. So this is the landing page for Cami in terms of being able to pull in from something on your computer, pulling in something from your drive. So this is the landing page for that. So, but what I wanted to show you is I don't necessarily want to start from here. I want to start from searching online and showing you how it is that Cami can sort of follow you anywhere you are when you are on the internet. So I'll leave this here. And before I was searching for SAMR articles. So SAMR is one of the technology frameworks that we all work with, substitution, augmentation, modification, redefinition. So we think about the types of technology that we use and where does it fall on the SAMR model. So me as the teacher, I'm looking through and I'm looking for a PDF, okay? And this is one that I wanted to research a little bit. It was from Schoology. So you'll notice that when I open this up, I have this floating K that follows me, okay? I can come on over here. So this is with any PDF that I open up. My floating K, once I have this turned on in my domain, will follow me anywhere I go whenever I open up a PDF. So I'm like, all right, this is great. This might be something I want to work with my team in using next week, and I want them to be able to use this PDF to annotate, make references on here, comment on here. So I'm going to click open with Cami. So similar to what you saw over here, this was the main page that I went to when I first went to Cami, but this was me just finding a random PDF and saying, hey, I want to open it up with Cami. So two different areas. They'll eventually bring you to the same space, which is this. This is the Cami workspace, okay? And it took the PDF that I found online and it uploaded it into Cami. So a couple things to note. I like to start up here because this is your select tool, right? So your select tool just allows you to kind of move about on this PDF freely. Okay, so I'm going to head on down here. So what is the SAMR model? Okay, so right here, we're going to head on over to dictionary. One of the features of Cami is that it allows for a dictionary to pick up any of the words that you have within this PDF. So let's say I don't know what framework means, right? I can highlight the word framework, and since I'm on the dictionary option and I highlighted it, it tells me what this word means. So really think about how students can use this, or even adults, right? There might be certain things in here that you might not have a clue as to what it means. So it doesn't matter whether it's student or adult. The idea is that you have the dictionary component right here to allow for that access of vocabulary and the different levels of vocabulary that go into this particular area. So I can click on, let's see, I'll categorize, and again, it'll tell me what it is. When I am done, X this out, I no longer want to use the dictionary, I can just come back over to the select. Okay, so again, remember, when you click on the select, it just kind of brings you back to baseline. You have your basic arrow, and you can just move about the PDF freely. So I'm going to move on to some of the other components. So underneath dictionary, we have text to speech. This is huge. So text to speech, what this does, this will read the entire PDF for you. All right, so here we go. Let's hope that the sound works this time. I was having difficulty presenting and doing text to speech, but fingers crossed. So if I click on this, all right, I have my options to go back and forth, but I'm going to just bring you down to here. all the way down first. And this is the speed. So the default speed is at 1.0. So you can actually slow down the speed for yourself or speed it up, depending on how it is, what type of auditory learning you're working with. Do you want it to be faster? Do you need it to be a lot slower? You would go in here and make those modifications. Right above it is the voice change. So when I tap on this, there's a default voice. This is all about preference and who you want to listen to, but you can listen to Alex, Fred. There's all different voices, and you'll get to know them as you start using Cami. They'll become your BFFs, and you'll have a preference. But when I scroll all the way down, okay, keep going, you have the ability to change the language that it is spoken in. So think about your students who are Spanish speakers. They have the ability to come into the speech, instead of listening to it in English, they have the ability to click on Google Spanish and have this read to them in Spanish. Again, this is based on Google Translate. So many of you have probably either used this or heard of it, but you have the Google Translate app, and then you have the Google translation within your docs, slides and sheets. It's Google's translation algorithm. So it might not be perfect, but it's good enough, right? So it allows for that access for students who might not have been able to read this at all, right? So the little intricacies might not be there, but it definitely is giving them a chance to be able to engage in this text in their own language. So this is a lot to do about accessibility, and it's something that I know the DOE is focused on in terms of whether it's a physical disability or if it's something that's a language barrier. All right. So what I'll do is I'm going to come back over. Let's do Fred. And I click play.
800-749-2590. The SAMR model is a framework created by Dr. Ruben Puente.
Oh, I don't like Fred's voice. I've never used Fred's voice. Did you hear that, Brandon? Okay, yeah, Fred's voice is terrible. We won't use him again, but you get the gist of it. Okay.
Sorry, I was muted, but I did hear it. Yeah.
I saw your mouth going. I've learned to read lips really well. one of my new talents. Okay, so I'm going to head on down to the next piece, which is markup. So now this is a PDF. What I can do in here is I can start highlighting components of my PDF. So I like the box highlighter. It's just a preference. I come down here and I choose my colors. So the colors might correlate to specific things that you want your students to look at or to kind of draw their eyes to, or maybe it's something that they're doing on their own and you're saying, make sure you highlight all of your words on photosynthesis or the science content words in green. But just thinking about how the colors can make a difference. So I'm going to come over here and I'm going to do green. And what I can do is just go like this. I'm going to highlight the whole entire box. Okay? And there I go. I have a green highlighted box. If I do text highlighter, come down to yellow, I'm just going to highlight half my sentence, which is this, while it's often visualized. All right. And once I've highlighted, I can then move my mouse back over and you'll see that there are other options for more things for me to do. So for this one, if I wanted to delete it, I could actually, on my Mac, I could just hover over it and hit delete. Otherwise, I can come in here and I can just come on over to the remove tab. And then you have these other options to move around, change the color. So again, if I highlighted this the wrong color, I can make this change. And then this changes the transparency of the highlight. So you can make it lighter or darker, whatever it is that you need to do. So that is your highlighting feature. You can also do strike through. You can also underline. So again, these are all different things that you can try to think about, ways that this will engage, have students express, represent, whatever it is within the UDL framework. These different components can meet those needs of various learners, even teachers, various ways of representing and doing your teaching. So I said I could strike through, and I could strike through with different colors as well. So also back to like the editing process. A student uploads or is using a PDF or uploads their doc, you can use the strike through when talking about the editing process. That's available here for you. Okay, so I'm going to move on, and I'm actually going to just delete some of the things that I did so that we can see what is happening. Okay. Below our markup, which again, markup, we're writing on top of the PDF, is the comment feature. So this is big because traditionally when you're commenting in docs, you're able to just type on the right side. So when you're in docs, you click somewhere just like this. So I'll demonstrate. It's similar to docs. Please read this section. Enter. This is what Jackie commented. Again, Cami is speaking to Google. They're meshed together. So you'll see that there is a lot of crossover. This is a regular comment, plain and simple. And it's represented by this color right here. I can make modifications to this color if it's a particular type of comment or, you know, whatever. So I'll change it to red. I have voice commenting. So you can get extra apps to add onto your computer to do voice commenting, or you can just come into Cami and you could have voice commenting built into right here. The voice comment. Let's do it right here. And you'll notice that I'm now recording. There's a timer going on. So I want you to think about some of the substitution that you do in your teaching. Most of the remote learning might fall in this category, and that's okay. But as we move forward, we want to move up the ladder and head on up to redefinition. Okay, so I stopped my voice recording. I'm going to play it back. And you'll notice that I'm now recording. There's a timer going on. So I want you to think about some of the substitution that you do. Do your students need things read to them? Do they need this auditory outlet for them to actually hear you giving them feedback this way? Or maybe they are able to give you feedback this way, but you have the voice commenting and it goes up to 5 minutes. And then you can also, since this is a collaborative document, eventually, we're not getting to it today, you can go back and forth, just like on regular docs, with commenting and replying to another comment on here. You'll see that there is that option. I'm going to come on over to video commenting. So please excuse how I look. We'll click on modification. Very simple. This pops up. This is going to be a video comment. All I have to do is click record. Actually, it started recording automatically. Let me delete that and we'll do it again. So I click my video comment, I click record, and it's recording me already. My red button is on. We're at modification. What did your task look like? The technology allowed for a significant task redesign. Please share more about how you went from substitution up to modification when you were creating this task. I can pause it, and then I could keep going by clicking on it again. You'll see when I hover over, it says continue, or I click done, and there is my video comment. Again, works for teacher, works for student, either way. But the comments live here. I can make this larger, and then you have the 3 dots to picture, make it bigger. Okay. Last piece over here is your screen capture. So for those of us who are doing screen recording, if I click screen capture and I tap, well, I just got rid of the Chrome extension. You need the Cami extension for Chrome, because what'll happen is you have the ability to be able to screen record. Like you might do on Screencastify, or you might do on Padlet, or you might do on any number of other tools, but I forgot that I had removed that from my my toolbar up here because it was so cluttered and all of my Chrome was slowing down. So you do need to make sure that you add that extra add-on to your Chrome browser for it to work. But in any event, I mean, these are huge to have as a support for students. So I'm going to keep on moving down. So then we have text box. So students can annotate directly on here. So can teachers. So when you click on text box, right, we have this. We could pick our color. I'll leave it with black. And I'm just going to tap anywhere in here. I think this is a great resource. I just need some more information. Info on it. Okay, so what I can do, I can move this around. I can make it smaller, right? I can do a lot of different things with this in terms of making it look appealing. So very much like Docs, like Microsoft Word, like all of the platforms that we use, you can change your font, change the size, okay? All those options are similar to what we already know. You can also see where it is right here. You have voice typing. So maybe this is one of my typos. That's all right, I'll leave it. You have the voice typing option. So again, think about students who maybe are not as quick on their keyboard, or this is another entry point for them to be able to express themselves. They can start voice typing. I think voice typing works pretty well. I'm speaking slow, and it's capturing what I'm saying, period. So you'll see right there. Oops, I'm still recording. Make sure you turn it off. But pretty simple for them to be able to just do speech to text, right? And it's actually better than my iPhone, which always seems to capture the most random things. And for those people on this call know what I'm talking about. And whenever I try to voice text, I sound like a crazy person. As we move down, I'm not touching on this today, but you do have the ability to add math equations in here. You are also able to draw. So if I wanted students to draw something for me, click on this. Again, very, very easy. It's difficult on a laptop that doesn't have, let's say, a mouse or a touch screen. The trackpad is a little bit, it's difficult with anything that when you're doing drawing, but you do have the ability to obviously do it even with the trackpad. It's just not as user friendly, right? So then I can change my strokes depending on what it is I want students to do. So maybe I just want them to circle specific words. Maybe I want them to underline. Okay, these are the different things that you can do with your drawing tool down here. Adding in shapes. So probably something that you would do at math, unless you were using these shapes to represent things in writing. Maybe you were using them to represent, if you were talking about main idea, you're going to put a triangle next to where you found main idea in this passage, or maybe you'll use a circle to highlight character trait. Whatever it is, you can get creative by using the shapes that are down here. And then obviously I could erase whatever it is that I've done by coming over here. But again, you also have that same ability, if I come up here to select, to just tap and delete. So many different ways to get to the same endpoint. And then down, last but not least, you could insert an image. So similar to when you're inserting into Docs, you have the option to upload grab from your computer, grab right from your drive, or you could do a Google search right within here. So it's going to prompt me to sign in again for the 90th time today. Make sure I sign in, and I could do a Google search right in here. I don't have to go outside. I don't have to open up another tab. I could just type in puppy, and puppy will pop into and I could drop it wherever it needs to go. This is kind of a random picture and a random thing to put in, but I just wanted to show you how easy it was to add in pictures, which can aid in the support of what it is that I am showing in this PDF. Or a student can also put in images that represent their learning and what it is that they understand of this. So I'm going to click on it. I can make changes to it here, and I will just delete it for now. So I am over time. Do you mind if I show one more thing? Okay, so I'm going to show one more thing because there are tons of other components to Kami. All we did today was look at how you find a PDF and you're able to open it on Kami. But right over here, top right, this can go right into Google Classroom. So the important piece is that we know that everything is intertwined and fused together. So when I click create assignment, what you'll see is that this looks just like, if it opens up, why are you not opening? All right, we might not be doing this because my thing is not allowing me to open it up. But what you can do is on the video, since this isn't opening for me here, you can head on over to that video that I posted. And let me see if I could do it through this manner. Hold on one second. It might be because I'm sharing my screen. probably it. In any event, if this doesn't work, it's totally fine, because in the video, 2 videos that I put onto the slides presentation has what it looks like in creating. Here we go. Okay. So usually it uploads automatically, and it wasn't doing that while I was on here. So what I did was I came over here and I made sure that it was uploaded. And again, that happens automatically, but for some reason it's not today. I come back over here to my 3 lines. I go to create assignment. Forget it. Okay. We're not having any luck with the create assignment. It popped up one time for me. But so I'm going to pause here again. Like I said, the video has what it looks like when you're creating an assignment. It looks exactly like it would in Google Classroom. It has you put in the title, has you put in instructions, exactly as you would do a regular assignment in Classroom, and pushing it out to, again, part of your class, your whole entire class, and the students get it on the back end looking like this. So this is one of my students, right? This is Alice Apple. She's in her class. This was her assignment when it was pushed out through Kami. Please add in your reflection for the weekly assignments. She gets it as a PDF. So what happens is when you first go to that Kami homepage that I directed you to, you as a teacher are going to sign in with your Google account. You're going to select that you are a teacher. Your students are going to do the same thing. There's actually the Kami student, how to get started as a student. They'll do the same thing. They will go to Kami, they will sign up with their Google account, and they will say that they are a student. This document right here, every time you go to push something out from Kami onto Classroom, it asks you, do you want this to be pushed out in the assignment? So students can have this for the first time. You can push it out every single time, but it gives them directions on how to get Kami on their computers and ensure that they have everything set up properly. So this was pushed out to Alice Apple. It has the instructions and it has the PDF. And the PDF is actually a Kami. So again, this is not opening up fully because I am sharing my screen and I'm taking up a lot of bandwidth. But the student sees it as a PDF, and then they would come here and open this as Kami as well. So they open up and they're able to engage in whatever you put on that document. So if you put notes on there, you put comments on there, they're able to see. All right. And also Alice also put information on here as well. So I'm going to stop right now. Like I said, there's a lot more to this. And
so Jackie, there was a question here at the bottom, and I think you might have just answered it, but Andrea wanted to know if you can embed pre-recorded audio and video into the document when you're sharing it out.
So you can't embed pre-recorded. You can with, you could put in a link. These are things that you're going to see, like these recordings. Oh, well, technically yes and no. This looks pre-recorded because this is something that we went back and forth with, but I can't record something on my screen and then upload it onto here. Like I can't upload it onto this. I could put a link to it if I wanted, but I can't upload it.
Were there any other questions, anybody on the team that anybody saw while I had my screen shared or when Jackie was?
I think everything was answered, but if I'm wrong, maybe you guys could just type your question.
Yeah, if you didn't have a question answered, just type it in the chat again.
Like I said, if you watch those 2 videos, those will kind of give you, I didn't get to all of it, but it'll give you a step-by-step breakdown of what it looks like to create a blank document and how it looks when you push it out onto Classroom as well. So it's really just about tinkering with it and finding what works best for you. I know
a group of questions about students accessing Kami and, you know, if there's any restrictions or anything like that. I think they were kind of answered amongst themselves, but maybe if you just want to touch on that.
So there are no restrictions. Students are able to access this. What they would do is I also shared this. There's a folder in the slides presentation with all of the Kami documents, including what to provide the students. So I'm gonna quickly share my screen again.
Oh, go ahead. I had
yeah.
shared mine, but you take over.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No, go ahead. Go ahead. I'm getting.
This is the
Go ahead.
document. This is the document that I was referring to. This is in that folder that's on the slides, and this was also what was attached to my students' assignment, remote learning with Kami for students. This tells them exactly what they have to do on their end, what the parents should do with them, making sure that they add, because they'll be prompted to do it. This is the Kami extension. You'll be prompted to add this when you sign up too, but this is the Kami extension. That they'll have to put on their computers. Once it's on there, they'll be able to access it anytime. But this is there for the kids to be able to, and parents to help them get on. But there are no restrictions.
All right. So just want to thank you, Jackie, so much for coming on with us. Jackie is amazing. And yeah, just thank you. I think everybody else was saying thank you. It was really so informative. Just for everybody who's still on with us, the second to last slide is a resource slide with all the articles, the video, the cast video we used on here from the presentation today. And so I'll also add a screenshot of your UDL best practices Jamboard in here so that you have that. So our final slide. Be well, most importantly. And thank you for doing what you do every day for our kids. This was a recorded session. We'll post it in our classroom if you wanted to see it again or share it with colleagues. And if there's no other questions or comments, we thank you very much for your time with us.
Have a great day, everyone.